Woodsman 907. This is Alaskan. So yeah, like I was saying the last time, what's cool about a Dragon Ball is it's just like a perfect gimme. Like you see somebody with that, you're like, hey, what's that? Give me that. You know, that's what we call it. Give me that. Like, give me that. Give it here. Like, hey, give it here. Give me that. Give me that. Give it here. Dragon Balls. So that's what they're fighting about, in case you're wondering. Because I edited out a lot of the story reviews videos. But yeah, it's called Dragon Ball Z because there's these Dragon Balls. There's 7 of them. You get all of them. You get a wish. That's pretty much it. And then the rest is about, who wants them and how hard they're willing to fight to get one, right? It's pretty straightforward. And, this game picks up right at the same place the story does. It takes you through the whole story of Dragon Ball Z, which is, like I said, the first anime really that I ever saw was Dragon Ball Z, but there was a whole series before that called Dragon Ball, and that was one of the things that was a little bit confusing about the show growing up, because you watch the old, they showed this one first, and then they showed the old ones, but there's actually 150 some odd episodes. There's 5 seasons of Dragon Ball, and for most of it, Goku is just a child. That's Goku, right? But the main character of the story, Goku, is a child for most of it until like the last season where he grows up. But I mean, think about that. That's 5 years worth of a whole story arc to explain who that green character is. That's Piccolo. Actually, at this point in the story, they still call him Piccolo, but he's technically a fusion of actually 3 Namekians. But that's really confusing. So they just call him Piccolo. But in the story, Dragon Ball, he shows up as a villain, actually, twice. First, he's this evil villain character who shows up to collect the Dragon Balls to wish for immortality, which he does, and then turns around and kills the dragon right immediately afterwards for his own reasons. Not even because he didn't want anyone else to use the Dragon Balls. He just personally had beef with the dragon, and he just killed him right then and there after wishing for immortality. And all that happened before he fights Goku. Well, before Goku beats him, actually. I think they had a fight before that. But Goku was somewhere else. He was getting some training, he was getting the sacred spirit water, or whatever it's called. But yeah, Piccolo's actually the guy who killed Krillin the first time. For those of you who remember the Goku versus Frieza fight, which is all of you, I assume, when Goku goes Super Saiyan the first time, it's right after Krillin dies. And like I said, the show is called Dragon Ball, so a lot of people get confused with why that was so upsetting for Goku, and it was the thing that triggered it. And most people get it. Krillin is Goku's best friend, but also, and it's just an extra layer of drama that some people miss, is that Krillin already died once, and the rules with the Dragon Balls are the dragon cannot grant the same wish twice, and in most cases that means somebody can only be revived once, and Krillin had already died in the previous series, which I didn't know the first time I watched Goku versus Frieza. But I knew that was part of the deal because they had mentioned it a long time ago in the previous episode. There's so much stuff going on that a lot of the details just kind of get missed. And man, that Goku versus Frieza plays a lot of episodes, and most people know that the planet gets destroyed during the fight, but I was recently rewatching it, and they actually destroyed 2 planets during that battle. There's this one, it's the craziest thing, they're just fighting, and Frieza just uses the same attack that he used to destroy Namek, but Goku deflects it, right? And it just goes off into space and it hits some planet and that planet blows up. Right in the middle of the fight. Not even a particular episode that I remember. But that totally happens. So there's a planet that they're fighting on that blows up. And just during the battle, at least one other planet. Well, I mean, there was probably no life on that planet anyway, but that just shows you how powerful those characters are. Just one attack, and Frieza can do more than one of those. It's actually a move that he has in his final form in this game that actually really hurts a lot when it hits you. Like I was saying, all the drama in this game centers around the Dragon Balls, which is the namesake of the whole franchise. But my favorite villain in this series is actually Cell. And one of the reasons I like him, the Cell story arc actually follows pretty much the same story arc as Piccolo's. And part of the reason for that is because Cell literally just copied his plan because he already has Piccolo's DNA. In fact, the first time you meet Cell, the first character he fights is actually Piccolo after he's fused with Kami. They did that to fight the androids, 17 and 18. But between the time they decide to do that and when they actually do, this new character named Cell shows up. And that's what I was going to say. One of my previous broadcasts, I don't remember which one, I said that the character Cell in his first larval form was a reference to the movie Mimic. But I googled it and that's not true actually. That episode came out in 1992. The movie came out in 1987. And they're based on a cicada. It's an actual bug that does that. They I guess bury themselves in the ground or something, and they only come out every 20 years, those ones. But that's where they got the idea from. And yeah, so I was thinking about that. And there's actually a good reason why I make that mistake, which I make a lot of times. And that's also why I say don't believe everything you hear until you see the episode yourself, because that happens a lot. Pretty much every Dragon Ball Z fan gets the details wrong. That's why I'm watching every episode over again. But yeah, like I was gonna say, there's a long personal anecdote of mine that I associate with Cell, and is part of the reason why he's my favorite character, because I knew he was coming, because uh, so I used to play with toys, right? I used to collect. They made, I think it was Hasbro at the time was making these miniature Dragon Ball Z figures, and you can buy like a pack of like 5 of them, and I didn't know who the characters were, even though it said on the box who you had and what their names were. But those episodes hadn't come out yet, so I didn't read the manga. So I was just buying because they looked good. And one day I was just playing with them, and I was in my backyard. See, when we first moved into this house, like when I was a little kid, when I was like 5 years old, or maybe 5 or 6, whatever year these came out, because I remember Goku had gone Super Saiyan, and he had definitely already won the fight. So I don't remember what year it was, but we used to rent this basement out. It's actually a whole apartment, right, with a bathroom and sink and everything. And we used to rent it out to help with the mortgage and stuff. And one of the renters that we had down here was this kind of early 20s couple, and there was this black dude, and he was a fan of the show. And one day, I was in the backyard just playing with my toys, and I was, like a kid, he saw I was playing with Dragon Ball Z. He goes, "You know who that guy is?" And I'm like, "This guy?" Yeah, you know who that is? I'm like, "Yeah, that's me. Duh." He goes, "Yeah, I know that's you, but oh, that's you in the game, like the game you're playing?" Like, "Yeah, that's me." And he goes, "Yeah, but you know what character that is on the show?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's Goku." Okay, so you know the show, right? And this toy I'm thinking of was Goku as a kid, and his stance was kind of like this. He had his arms out, and he was just looking up and smiling, and he had his power cord on his back. And he had a tail, too, that was kind of sticking out. And I got that one in a pack of like 5 Kid Gokus. It was the only one that was just standing there and wasn't like on a flying Nimbus or in his little fighting stance. So it was my favorite one out of that pack. And they market them that way on purpose. They give you like doubles, so he encourages you to trade. And so yeah, I was told, he goes, "Okay, so you know that's Goku. You know what they call him in Japan?" I go, "Goku?" "Well, yeah, but they call him Son Goku." I go, "Okay, then that's Son Goku." And so, we started talking about the show, and like a kid, I was telling him all about, I wanted to tell him all about Frieza, and, but he had already seen all those episodes. He was watching from Japan somehow online, or buying VHS. However, people in America used to do that back then, but yeah, so conversation goes on, and he starts telling me about Trunks and what happens next in the story, because I asked him, because I'm like, "You know what's gonna happen? Well, what's gonna happen? Tell me." So he does, and he goes, "Okay, so Goku comes back, and he learned all these new techniques. One of them is he can focus all of his energy into just one part of his body. So there's this other Super Saiyan character who shows up called Trunks, and he just starts swinging at him with his sword. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Back, another Super Saiyan? Like, how? Where? What is that? And he has a sword, and Goku beats him with one finger, and he goes, yeah. I mean, he breaks down the whole episode where that happens in. And honestly, it takes him like 5 episodes to show it in the actual show. But, ooh, 7-star ball. Right, anyway. Oh, and I'm also just gonna say, it didn't spoil the episode for me one bit. Like, even though I already knew the stuff that was gonna happen, and he really went through a lot of the details too, because Cell was also his favorite character. See, I was young and naive, and I thought Frieza was. I couldn't imagine like, where's the show gonna go from here? Like, this is it. Like, this is the show over now? Because like they say Goku's gonna come back, but I don't see how. And oh, I think this might have been during the Garlic Jr. saga. That's why I blocked it out. Yeah, there's like 10 episodes, 5 or 6 before Goku comes back to Earth. And it's this weird area in the show where they kind of, it's like they don't know where they're gonna go next with it, and they're also trying to rectify some continuity issues between the movies and the show, and it's this really, I mean, just the villain is not as interesting as the other characters, but I mean, the actual fight scenes are actually pretty decent. It's just that whole story arc just feels so pointless to the show when you really just like get to the Super Saiyans. You know, like, we know there's Super Saiyans. Why are you doing this? Like, where the hell is Vegeta? Yeah, the whole time Vegeta's out there, and like, to their credit, Vegeta's doing the most gangster thing in the universe. He's out there looking for Goku. He's like, I'm gonna steal this spaceship and then I'm just gonna scour the galaxy looking for a Super Saiyan. And he like, there's a whole scene where he finds like a planet of ex-Frieza Force soldiers, and he takes them all out by himself, and he's like, where's the Super Saiyan? Where's the Super Saiyan? I know I felt the Super Saiyan's Kira, don't you? So, yeah, I mean, and he can't even go Super Saiyan at this point. He's just literally out there searching for, like, oh, I can't wait to see that Super Saiyan for myself. That's Vegeta. Anyway, getting the Cell. I mean, he broke down the whole other episode where they first introduced the character, and it's actually this really, in retrospect, really eerie, really mysterious story arc. And what happens is, after you accept that there's this Super Saiyan from the future, apparently, who has a time machine, then Cell actually comes from further in the future, where he kills that Super Saiyan, steals his time machine, and goes back even further ahead before the Super Saiyan even arrived. And then he comes back to the time machine in an egg, because the time machine just doesn't have enough room for him in his full form. But then, like he comes out of the egg, and then he comes into that bug form, where they never actually see him in that bug form, because he just goes straight underground. But what they do is they find this shell, and when he talks about them finding that shell, like, I couldn't understand, and he used the movie Mimic as a reference, which distracted me as a kid, because I wasn't allowed to watch rated R movies either, so I was learning all this Dragon Ball Z stuff, and I made a mental note of myself to watch the movie Mimic. But anyway, yeah, so there's this huge, he didn't, I guess he didn't know what a cicada is either, because he called it like a big cockroach shell, which is what it looks like. It's this big, nasty, beetle-looking guy. And he starts talking about what Cell looks like, and he shows up, and he looks like a beetle. He's got like a hard shell, he's got this shell-like wing thing going back, and he's got this stinger on a tail that comes out like a huge spike, and it just jabs right into anywhere, and it will just drain all of your cells down to your key and everything until there's literally nothing left but your clothes. I mean, like your body, even like first it withers away, and then it just disappears and vanishes, and all goes into cell. And he absorbs all of that power and gets stronger. And so he's describing Cell. And I'm thinking, hey, I think I have that guy. I think I have, hang on a second. He goes, oh yeah, okay, yeah, go get it. I go, okay. You mean this guy? And he goes just like this. He goes, yeah, that's Cell. Oh my God, can I see that? Let me look at that. Yeah, that's Cell in his perfect form. Oh man, you got a really good guy there. Like, he's more powerful than a Super Saiyan, way more. In fact, they gotta go Super Saiyan level 2 to beat him. And then I was like, what do you mean? Or he ain't gotta go beyond Super Saiyan. Like, beyond Super Saiyan, that's impossible. What does that mean? And well, yeah, that's about all I remember from the conversation about Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, still have the figure. It's the exact same figure from that story. And I was looking at it, it says right here, 1989. So I thought, well, if this figure of Cell in his perfect form was made injection molded in 1989, then it couldn't be based off the Mimic. So that's why I Googled it to make sure. It was bugging me a lot. So, anyway, the rest of this, there's more to that story, but it's not about Dragon Ball Z. He was talking about how in Japan, you know, all these episodes are really old, you know, Dragon Ball Z is really old, Transformers is really old, you know, Pokemon's really old. The new thing now, actually, over there at the time, this is back in the 90s, but he said, you know what the big thing is now in Japan? And I'm like, what? And he goes, guess. And I'm like, bigger than Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon and Mickey Mouse and everything else over there? And he goes, yeah, way bigger. They got whole stores dedicated just to this one show. This one show. You're never gonna guess what it is. And I'm like, what? And he said, Powerpuff Girls. And I went, really? Actually, that makes sense. Wait, I thought that was from Japan. No, wait, no, it's not. But, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then we talked about, have you seen that one Powerpuff Girls music video of them and the giant robot and they're fighting the pufferfish? And I go, yeah, they run that all the time on Cartoon Network. And they go, yeah, that's huge in Japan. They love Powerpuff Girls. They did that whole video just for that audience because they love it. Okay. Alright, cool. But, yeah, so that's the story of the first time I heard about Cell. And yeah, I kept on with that figure, and he became the bad guy in many different inane adventures. And yeah, it was pretty interesting little story about how appealing this show is to everybody. And like me, I mean, just personally, I always wanted to have a tail as a kid, even before I saw Dragon Ball Z. I was always a lover of animals and nature, and I thought, well, if I could change one thing about myself and being a human, it would be having a sweet tail. And then people would ask, what kind of tail? And I would be like, that's a good question. And for me, way before I saw Dragon Ball Z, it was Mowgli, raised by wolves. I thought that was cool. Raised in the jungle around animals, and like raised by wolves fighting tigers and stuff. And that's, I think that's what sort of drew me to Dragon Ball Z. Of course, I didn't even know Goku had a tail at the time, but Gohan did. And when I found out that tail, because I wasn't really 100% on the monkey tail thing at first, but when I saw that the reason they have that tail is for a really good reason. It turns out when they look at the moon, the full moon specifically, they transform into their great ape form, which is this huge man. The first time I saw that was Gohan transforming, and it happens between Piccolo and Gohan, and they capture that moment in the game too, where Gohan sees the full moon for the first time in his life, and goes great ape right there on like the first night of his training. And Piccolo was totally unprepared for it too, because it turns out Piccolo's never seen this form before, because Goku had already lost his tail by the time he and Piccolo fought, which actually happened in the World Martial Arts Tournament, so it was just a 1v1. But when Gohan transforms, it's interesting about it in the episode, they don't talk about it much, but Piccolo just, when he sees Gohan transform and he realizes how powerful he is, the first thing he does is he blows up the moon, right? He just, boom, blows up the moon, gone. And when I first saw that, it was kind of, I thought, well, why? Because he does that, and then Gohan transforms back and he passes out, right? Because that's an exhausting experience, right? And then Piccolo pulls off his tail right there, so he can't transform again. And for a second I thought, well, why would he pull Gohan's tail off if he already blew up the moon? And from there, it's like, well, why blow up the moon at all? If you could have just cut Gohan's tail off. And the reason he blew up the moon is because well, there's two other Saiyans on their way to Earth at that point. They both have tails, and it would be a real problem if two of them transformed and Gohan all at the same time. And also, the moon has been blown up before to stop Goku from transforming. So it's not actually the first moon that's been blown up for that reason. I guess they think Kami put it back to do that, or else they used the Dragon Balls, or I don't even remember if they explain how it got back, but it happens a few times. So, okay, what else? Oh, I remember this part. But they don't cover this part in the game, but after Piccolo blows up the moon, Gohan almost transforms again. I think his tail actually grows back, because Saiyan tails can grow back at least twice actually. Goku's tail grows back a couple of times. I think you have to remove it a certain kind of way to make sure that it doesn't grow back. Oh wait, hang on. Okay. So yeah. I think I know they cut this part out from the game, and I think they might have cut this episode from Dragon Ball Z Kai as well. But I'm still watching the original episodes right now, so I don't really know. But Saiyans have this natural battle instinct, right? And it can be, and it has something to do with their transformation, because on planet Vegeta, I think a full moon only occurs once every 8 years or something. So it's not like you get a whole planet of great apes all every month. In fact, Saiyans weren't the only species on their planet, so they evolved alongside this other species, well, not really species, but other race, or whatever you want to call it, called the Superiors, and they were the ones who had the technology. So the Saiyans were all warrior, all violence, and they were also like 3 times larger than the Superiors. So even when there wasn't a full moon, they were way stronger. But the Superiors had their technology and their their numbers. So they had this really long war, and eventually all the Saiyans, I guess, united, and they had a full moon, and they all attacked at once, and I guess little by little just wiped out the other race. And then they had all this leftover technology around that they didn't really know how to use, but it was there, and they had spaceships, I guess, and they used them to travel to other planets and destroy them, take them over, and then sell them to the highest bidder. And yeah, so that was all going on for honestly, who knows how long. But Goku, I guess, was sent here initially for that purpose, and his spaceship was left over, and apparently built into that pod that baseball-shaped Saiyan pod, there's a hologram projector that will project a false full moon on, just in case the Saiyan happens to land on a planet that doesn't have a moon. They have this failsafe to where even a child Saiyan can be exposed to that and transform and activate their battle instinct and be a force to be reckoned with. So, the part about Gohan having a tail and Goku not, for several reasons they decided it was better that they removed Goku's tail, which is also apparently saying tails are really sensitive, because if you grab one by the tail, they lose all of their strength, at least as long as you have it grabbed. And it's a weakness that happens to Goku that is exploited a lot in the first few seasons, but you can actually apparently strengthen that tail so that when somebody grabs it, it doesn't hurt, which well, it comes in handy, I guess, but Raditz never got that far apparently, but Vegeta actually did. And it's debatable whether or not losing that tail was a great loss, but it seems generally that Saiyans without a tail seem to have a faster path to Super Saiyan mode, at least. Because I guess before that, the only Super Saiyan there was in Great Ape form, which is I find these kind of details fascinating because I'm a writer, and this show, in fact, like the whole franchise in general, it's very visual and it's very artistic, and all of the characters and the plot lines are really emotional, and that comes through in the way that it's drawn, which is why this game is really cool, because this is the first time I've ever seen the same sort of art style captured that efficiently in a video game. I mean, watching it, you don't forget it's a video game because of all the stuff going on. You've got your heads-up display and it's displaying damage and stuff. But, I mean, if you want to get a cool screenshot or something, or I don't know, like I said, I don't know if they have a spectator mode or anything like that. But, at any given moment, even when you're performing these interesting attacks that took a lot of time and work to get drawn and displayed, and they all, it just doesn't cease to amaze me how they all work just like they do in the show at any time. See that special beam cannon, and like the combos here, like when you hit the B button combos, the moves are different for each character, and if you pay attention here to Piccolo, his arm actually grows because that's one of his Namekian powers is he can stretch his arms out and retract them. And one thing that you can do in the show, actually a couple of things that you can do in the show that doesn't happen in the game. One of them is he can transform, he can grow actually, not so much transform, but he can expand himself, which he only does the one time. But it's a thing, it's a technique that Namekians can do. And what's cool about Piccolo in this game is his fighting style is a lot like it is in the show. In that it's distinct from the Saiyan characters in that Piccolo relies a lot on techniques. He does a lot of solitary training because he was born the only Namekian on Earth, and grew up really fast actually. In like a matter of 3 years, he goes from being this little kid to pretty much the same as he looks now. And he's pretty much all by himself, but he's got all of this power, and he was created out of the original Namekian splitting himself into two beings by removing all of the evil in his heart and putting it into a clone of himself, basically. Because I guess dividing is another technique that Namekians are capable of, dividing as well as fusing with other Namekians. Which was the other technique I was thinking of. Piccolo can actually split himself into at least, I think, 4 guys. It's the most between 2 and 4. Or maybe it's Tien Han who can do 4, because they both use that technique. But Piccolo's technique is his own. It's something that, again, apparently a Namekian trait that I don't think all Namekians can do it. There's different categories of Namekians, and Piccolo was a warrior class 1 or a dragon class 1, because not all Namekians can make Dragon Balls and control their ki and do these fighting style techniques like Piccolo and Kami can. These things just remind me of Pac-Man running around collecting these orbs. Even though I have way more orbs than I can possibly spend, I still, when you see a trail of them, just as a gamer, my instinct is to collect all of them. But, watching this gameplay again, one of the things I was struggling with, because this was right after going from one of the same characters to playing as Piccolo. I'm still getting A's and stuff, but this character really works a lot better if you time his super attacks more carefully. Piccolo's actually a really deceptive, really crafty fighter. He'll use, he'll use his intelligence and Kami's wisdom to outwit his opponent if he can, or he'll cut out the middleman and try to figure out some ultimate technique to kill his opponent in one move, but he'll wait until the opportune moment to do so, as opposed to the Saiyans, who mostly are just all power moves and strength and fighting, and you know, see in this, you know, I think one of the reasons I was getting A's in those last few battles was because I've got Piccolo and then I've got Yamcha and Tien here, and I'm using both their support attacks, which require these little mini cutscenes. I'm not exactly sure what to call them, but they're super attacks. But you know, Tien has one that's the solar flare, and then Yamcha's got this taunt where he actually attracts enemies towards him and makes himself the target, which again makes sense. And I like how the different super attacks and techniques reflect the characters, because that's definitely classic Yamcha for underestimating his opponents. But I've got those, and then I've got Piccolo using his Hellzone grenades, which at this point I'm still learning how to use. But what I learned is not to try and stack those kind of attacks. It's best to use one and then use a power move or go for a combo. Because if you try and stack those attacks, you kind of lose some of the effect. Like, for example, if you use Solar Flare and then use Taunt right as soon as you can immediately afterwards, it doesn't work as well. And what I'm doing is I'm stacking the support moves with my own moves, and it's kind of getting redundant. And that kind of makes sense that shouldn't really work, because it would make the fights a lot less interesting and a lot less fun to watch, and I end up getting a lower score. Well, the score's about the same, but I get a lower grade. So and another thing I noticed that this game doesn't seem to have is some kind of a mechanism for your enemies to transform. If you have support characters that have a transformation, they will do it automatically when you do, but I haven't seen them do it on their own. And now that I think about it, I haven't seen any enemies transform during the battle. They all just kind of start the fight in whatever form they're going to be in, which is actually a good thing, because it means that each transformation has its own character, its own NPC or something to use as a basis for their skill leveling and whatnot, as opposed to just being an extension of or some sort of modifier to the basic character. Like Piccolo, he's got his true Namekian form. That seems to be some kind of modifier to your Piccolo character. But then you see Frieza, for example, has different forms, and each form is its own, seems to be its own character, because they can level up independently. Because, like, for example, the the Frieza that you fight in the story, you know, you fight him one at a time, and then the Frieza you fight in the training room, you can fight in more than one of his form at the same time, and they're also at a much higher level. And they seem to be modified to have a filter that makes them look like holograms, or a skin, I should say, that makes them look like holograms. At least that's what it looks like to me. That's the kind of stuff I'm trying to figure out about this game, because that means also that not all the characters are fully rigged for combat mode. Like, for example, Frieza is not a playable character, because I think it would just be too much code to put in the game. I think in order to make Frieza a playable character, well, he would have to transform, right? He would have 3 different transformations, so it would be like adding a whole other Goku to the game. Well, then of course he's got his golden form too. Frieza does, but that's not in this game yet. But yeah, it's I like the way they did it in this game, because what you get is more mileage out of the characters that you have. I mean, they focus on the details that are important, which is, you know, about Goku. Games called Kakarot, so you follow Goku's story arc. And you don't really need to play as Frieza, but, you know, as long as the Goku versus Frieza fight is really satisfying, it feels like going Super Saiyan. And it definitely does, and it's definitely gratifying, you know, and satisfying. But, you know, even if that means they have to break up the fight, you know, with cutscenes in order for Frieza to transform, you know, then that's okay. Because another thing I noticed is that when you fight the bosses in the story mode, you know, you fight them like one-on-one or so, and they're a lot more capable than they are when you're fighting them in the training simulator. Like, it's kind of hard to tell if they have all of the same moves, or if certain moves are only available on like certain maps or during certain missions, for example. But, you know, that kind of stuff doesn't really affect the gameplay that much, except that well, it gives you an idea of what this particular game is actually capable of. And as long as you know, during the story mode, I mean, you know, when you're fighting Majin Buu, it feels like you are. And, you know, when you're fighting Majin Buu in the training simulation, it feels like a training simulation. You know, and the trade-off is you can fight Majin Buu in, you know, 3 of his forms at once, which doesn't happen in the game. And that really pays off, especially like with the 3 Saiyans, Raditz, Nappa, and Vegeta. Early on in the game, when they first you first find them in, let's see, I first fought him as Vegeta in one of the what are they called? The image training spawn points. And I was finding it really difficult at first, because it's the, you know, first time I noticed this battle that never happened in the shows, when you see all 3 of these Saiyans, you know, in the same place fighting as a team. And
just in terms of NPCs and AI, they actually work really well together, and they're a lot more difficult. I found that that training mode, or it's not a training thing. It's a technique acquire or an attack acquire. But I found that in some ways more gratifying. And then I found out later they added it in the simulator. And even though like the levels in the simulator are set and you can't like raise up those they're at like level 40 or something, which is when you're at level 36 and you're fighting level 40 Vegeta, it's just as difficult or even more difficult than it is in the actual story mode. But in the story mode, the fights are just way more interesting. There's more stuff going on. More I don't know what you call them, more battle modifiers. I mean, it seems to be some of these techniques, they have certain levels of what'll happen if you activate them. Like some techniques are capable of performing super finishes, or you can activate little cutscenes, for example, right after you do a guard break. So if you do a guard break and then super attack, it'll do a little cutscene depending on the super attack. And I'm not quite sure how to do the super finish yet. I can do a few of them, but I haven't figured out all the conditions or whatever. And they seem to be pretty unique to the character too, and down to the specific technique. And they look very interesting too. But I also noticed sometimes the Z combos don't perform exactly the way they're supposed to. Like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna do one right here. But when you do the Z combo, all three characters attack at the same time. And it might just be my computer, but the support characters' attacks don't always show up. Okay, no, I finished it too fast. But the way to do the Z combos are, you see the little gauges, there's a circle around the icons for your support characters. When those circles fill up for both characters, then you hold right and left bumper to do the Z combo. Also, I don't know if you can hear it over the didgeridoo, but at a few points while I'm flying around here, you can hear Tien say, well, you're a strong flyer, or something like that. He has a line, and I think that's a reference to the fact that Tien Chinon was the first character that could actually do the airwalking technique, or what we call flying. And they never really explained it. And for that matter, Tien Chinon's the one who has this huge third eye in the middle of his forehead. I don't think they ever explained that either. He just shows up at the World Martial Arts Tournament and he's got this third eyeball that nobody ever explained. You know, like I remember watching Dragon Ball Z expecting somebody to say something about that, but that never came up. But he was also, I mean, Tien's a lot like Piccolo in that he's really focused on martial arts techniques. And Tien was an enemy before Piccolo showed up. Actually, right after Goku beats Tien, is the next villain is Piccolo Daimo. Demon King Piccolo. Not that Piccolo, the other Piccolo. And that's the Piccolo that killed the dragon. And it was one of his minions killed Krillin. His first minion actually did. And then he killed the dragon. Then Goku brings the dragon back. Then Goku beats Piccolo. Well, no, he beats Piccolo first. Then they get the Dragon Balls back, and then they wish everyone back. Yeah, that sounds right. There's so many episodes. And speaking of which, I just saw the episode where that move comes from. The one where, these cutscenes, that's what I'm talking about. Yamcha's got that one for taunt, and then I'm figuring out here that after you use one of those techniques, it's best to follow up with one of these, because what I was doing was, or what I did before was that Hell Zone grenades attack. This one, Hell Zone grenades. And when I got that move in the game, I didn't recognize it yet, but I just saw the episode where he does that for the first time. It's actually a move that he uses against Android 17 in the show, because Android 17 is so fast that he can just dodge all of the Ki Blast that Piccolo uses in his rapid fire Ki Blast attack. And so what Piccolo does in response to Android 17 dodging his every move is to blast them right past Android 17 and hold them in place, and then, just like this move in the game, they all trace in and attack at once. And the reason that move is so smart is because the androids have unlimited stamina. They have, their energy never runs out. I mean, the only way to beat them is to overpower them. But Piccolo is just trying to delay the android because he doesn't really have any hope of winning. Or, well, maybe he could have taken Android 17, but then Cell showed up. And so there was even more drama. Almost got all of them. I forget what quest it was, but there was, it was one of the side quests that I missed the first time, where you have to look for these wood chips, and I thought they were all on this map, but I couldn't find them, so I started doing this, and then I just wanted to see if you could get all of those trees before they respawn. And I guess apparently you can. But when you leave the map and come back, they all respawn anyway. But I was just, I just started doing that, and I was really impressed with the flight controls, because I mean, I like doing it. I mean, it really feels like, because, when you watch the show, they can go really fast. I mean, you see them flying all the time, just like that. But then it seems like they slow down during the fights, right? Because just as a fan, one of the things that bothered me sometimes is why you never see him flying around like that during the battles. And, well, I mean, the thing is, you do. I mean, people are always like, well, you never see them do this, or you never see them do that. You never see them, like, for example, attack when the enemy's just charging up, or when the enemy's monologuing, and the thing of it is they totally do. They do all that stuff in the show. It's just that they don't do it in every episode. But if you go back and watch again in season 3, when Piccolo fights Frieza in his second form, they're pretty evenly matched. Piccolo has just gotten back from training on King Kai's planet, and he had just fused with Nail. So he was at a state where he was more powerful than he's been before. And Frieza had already transformed once, so he was in his second form. And during the fight, Frieza has the upper hand when it comes to power, but Piccolo has him on speed. And, rather than, moving a little bit faster or going to full power while still in his second form, Frieza, taunts Piccolo and declares that in his next form, his power is even more terrifying than that of hell. And, so he naturally transforms again. And in his third form, he's uglier and faster, way faster than Piccolo is. And that's when he does that move that keeps getting me in the training simulation, where he uses his two little fingers and blasts you like 1,000 times. And it does a ton of damage, and he does that move to Piccolo in the show. And the way to get past it in the game is you just have to dodge. You have to time it right and listen for, you have to watch him. He'll jump, dodge really fast to close the distance, between where he is and where you are, and he'll jump right in front of your character. Then he'll do a little laugh, and then he'll attack. And if you dodge that attack, you can escape that move. Or you can attack first, I think. I think you can interrupt that move if you use a strong enough attack or do enough damage to him. Or you can dodge it by using a move that's got a little cutscene, like that Hellzone grenades move that Piccolo has here. then, yeah, I mean, the thing of it is, Piccolo's a lot stronger than he looks. I mean, he's not a Super Saiyan, you know, but uh, they call him a super Namek, which is a concept that they tried to get. It's a lot harder to understand, but it's just sort of a phrase that they use uh, just to compare how powerful Piccolo is after he fuses with Kami. And I thought it was really nice that they added it as a transformation in this game. Because all the playable characters have that transformation menu. And that kind of also explains why some of these characters are not playable. Because, Tien and Yamcha don't have a transformation mode. But Tien can actually split himself into 4 individuals. So, I don't know, maybe that could be a technique that they add if they ever want to make that guy playable. And Yamcha has a technique of his own that doesn't. I was kind of sad to see it go. He has the Wolf Fang Fist move that he had since Dragon Ball. That was his main attack. But they went with the Kamehameha. So, I mean, he doesn't really use that move after he joins the Turtle School. And I think that was another thing that it's kind of like, well, how much work do we want to put into Yamcha for this game? He's going to be a support character. Do we want to make a whole technique that only he uses and that he never does even once in the show? I mean, he does it in Dragon Ball. I don't think he does it once in Dragon Ball Z. But, the taunt move works pretty good. Although, you see, I just bumped. That's when the PC crashed. But that last second there, I stacked up taunt and then Hellzone grenades. And it didn't go well. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm gonna cut this stream short there too, because I gotta catch up. I'm behind on my Didgeridoo DBZK videos anyway, but I will stream again tomorrow at the scheduled time. But that stream will probably be short too. So yeah, until then, see you later.